Hello everyone, in this video we will be seeing movie 3, and this will the end of What If Deku Was the Son of Goku, so I really hope you guys enjoyed. So be sure to stick around until the end. Let's get started. As one prepared for their hero training, Bakugo was relieved when no one quizzes him on his date with Kendo. Instead the focus was on interrogating Midoriya and Uraraka. Turns out as soon as Mina saw them leave, she told all the class, and so some waited in Uraraka's room, others in Midoriya's room, and the rest in the common in case. They decided to use the front door. The moment they returned, they've been getting pestered about it ever since, hence why Izuku was taking a little longer than usual to get his hero costume on. He was happy to get to class in the mock city where everyone can focus on that instead of his personal life. Aizawa stood beside All Might. Okay, today you'll be doing another rescue exercise. There will be 3 teams on the course. One person will be a hostage. Others will be the villains, leaving the rest to play the role as hero. Heroes win if they either capture the villains or escape the building with the hostage. Villains win if they defeat the heroes or defend the hostage in the time limit. And what if you get defeated? Asked Uraraka, walking up towards the 2 teachers. Everyone looked at her confused, with All Might replying, "We won't be taking part in the exercise till things get out of hand." Uraraka smirked as she stood in front of her teachers. "Well, I can't tell you things are about to get out of hand." She punches All Might square in the chest, sending him flying into a wall, and quickly wraps her tail around Aizawa's throat that suddenly appeared. Everyone stared in shock at her. Izuku couldn't believe what he was seeing. "You Uraraka? What are you doing?" "Deku, that's not me," spoke the real Uraraka that was standing beside him the entire time. The fake smiled devilishly at the rest of the class. "Well then I don't need to pretend I'm her anymore." She began transforming, her tail gripping tighter on Aizawa's neck. "Allow me to introduce myself. I am Death Might," he spoke once completing his transformation, chuckling. All Might charged forward in his muscle form, punching DM in the side of the head, but he didn't budge. "Let go of him." DM turned to face him. "You're not in a position to negotiate, especially since you no longer have the power of One for All on your side." All Might stepped back, coughing up blood, returning to his true form. How do you know about that?" DM smirked. "You'll find out in a moment. It's funny, I could so easily killed you last night in the staff room, but I wanted you to suffer a bit." All Might coughed more. "Last night? I was alone. No one was there except Ms. Joke." Aizawa stared at the beast, trying to breathe. What did you do to Emmy?" He managed to choke out. "She's fine, don't worry. I couldn't risk her death ruining our date plans here today. So she's alive and well, but you, on the other hand, that quirk of yours might become annoying for me, so I'm gonna have to take it along with your life." The stinger on the end of DM's tail penetrates Aizawa's spine between his shoulders. He groans in pain, still trying to gasp for air. "Aizawa knew," yells All Might. "Let him go, freak," yelled Bakugo, as he and Kirishima charged in to save Aizawa, but DM created a warp gate, causing the 2 students to collide into one another. Mina fired acid at the monster's tail, making it burn and melt off. "Ah!" DM roared in pain as Suyu used her touch to grab Aizawa and pull him to the safety of the class. He panted, looking at the mangled mess of his tail. "Mina, I'm gonna make your death painful when I take that quirk of yours," he growled at her before he began to grow a new tail to replace the melted off one. "Don't you dare threaten my students," yelled All Might. DM turned to him. "I think it's time you meet an old friend, symbol of peace," and so he once again began to shapeshift, and All Might froze in fear. Todoroki, Iida, Kirishima, Momo, Bakugo, and Izuku all went stiff with the same feeling of dreaded fear and no hope as the creature turned into All for One. No, you're not the real one," surely All Might said in barely a whisper. "Oh, I'm very real, All Might. Death Might was kind enough to visit me in prison. Not only that, he allowed me to join him to become one being, so I'm technically more powerful than I was before, and you lack the ability to stop me." All Might clenched his teeth, looking at the villain. "You will be stopped. Someone will rise up and defeat you, even if it isn't me. Let me guess. That someone is your little apprentice, right?" All for One turned to the students and eyed off the green-haired hero in training, Izuku Midoriya. Everyone looked at Izuku, then back to All for One. "You're an interesting boy." All for One tapped his temple. "I have seen your memories. Do your fellow classmates know that you were born quirkless?" Sero spoke up. "Everyone is born quirkless till they turn 4. Deku is just a late boomer is all." All for One chuckled. "That's an interesting theory, but since Mr. Midoriya is gonna die alongside All Might, you all might as well learn the truth." Izuku stared at All for One as his fellow students kept looking between the 2. "You see, All Might gave that boy his power. It's the reason All Might is weak now. Izuku Midoriya is the reason the world no longer has the symbol of peace. All Might had hoped to train him into his replacement to take up the mantle, but after today there will be no peace. Only destruction. All for One raises his hand in an open palm position, activating a quirk, Petrify Body. Activate. The entire class tensed up, unable to move in any way except their face. What did he just do? Groaned Kirishima. All Might answered Petrify Quirk. Freezer people's body in fear, unable to move for an hour. Now that none of you can interfere, I'll allow Death Might to take over from here. He transformed back into his reptile counterpart with the tail grabbing an unconscious Aizawa. All Might tried to move but couldn't. No, leave him alone. Death Might simply looked All Might in the eye before stabbing Aizawa with his tail and sucking the life out of him. The girls screamed in horror, watching their home teacher shrivel up into skin and bone. The boys yelled in anger, desperately trying to move to save him. But can't you bastard, yelled Todoroki. DM looked at the students. Now it's time for the main show. Izuku Midoriya, All Might's chosen hero. I'll give you a fighting chance to defeat me. But only so your friends and master can watch you fail and become a lifeless body, making you the last holder of One for All. Izuku felt his body become free. He looked at Aizawa's empty clothes and scarf along with his goggles. He clenched his fists and wiped his tears. I will make you pay, villain, he declared, walking out of the crowd of students. Death Might smirked, cracking his neck. At least try to entertain me. Izuku took up a fighting stance as One for All, full cowling, 100%. He leaped forward, throwing a kick which DM blocked. The both exchanged blows, creating shockwaves in a blur of speed. DM grinned, using his tail to attack Izuku, but he saw it coming and grabbed it, throwing him into the ground, creating a crater. DM turns one arm into a diamond sword and starts swinging it at Deku. He manages to dodge it, but DM manages to swipe across fast enough to cut Izuku's chest. He quickly jumped back, holding his wound, cringing in pain. He looked up in time to see DM lunge forward with his diamond sword raised. Deku quickly produces a ki blast and fires it at Death Might's chest, sending the villain crashing to the ground. Death Might stood up, looking at his chest. That wasn't the power of One for All. That was something else. Tell me what you just did, boy. Deku stood up, smirking. I can't tell you all my tricks now, can I? He quickly activated instant transmission and appeared in front of DM, driving his fist into his stomach, then detonating another ki blast. This caused DM to step back, holding his stomach, groaning in pain. The groans began to turn into psychotic laughter. Incredible power. You have young Midoriya. You're definitely capable of being a hero, but now I'll use more than 30% of my power. Izuku stared at him. He's gotta be bluffing. I was using 100% and he was just using 30? Before he could finish his thought process, DM appeared at incredible speed, uppercutting Deku in the stomach, then drop-kicking him, making him crash through a nearby building. DM quickly followed after him, punched him in the back, making him crash into the street. Uraraka stared at his collapsed body, tears streaming down her cheeks. Deku, GET up, you have to GET up. Come on, you bastard, kick his ass. You can do this, Midoriya. Deku pushes himself off the ground and spat out the blood that filled his mouth, then wiped it. He looked up to see DM walk towards him. You got quiet, the support team. Too bad words of encouragement won't save you. It might not mean anything to you, but it means the world to me to know they got my back. That's cute. But this isn't a fairy tale, boy. Yeah, whatever. Out of curiosity, how much power did you use then? If you must know, that was 60%. Izuku nodded. Okay then. I'm gonna have to turn up the heat. Death Might chuckled. Haha boy, you're already using 100% to take me on. You can't get much more power than that. Izuku took up a stance to power up. That's why I need to go beyond, plus ultra, One for All. Full cowling. 100% green lighting began to flicker madly off Izuku's body as he smirked and, Kaioken! He instantly became surrounded by a red of aura of rushing energy. All Might and the rest of One stared in pure shock while DM frowned in annoyance. Izuku looked up with his body glowing red and green lighting still flickering off him. He stared down at Death Might, with a toothy grin. Ready when you are. Death Might stared at the boy and the energy that surrounded him. For some reason his unknown abilities and powers were familiar to him, but at the same time he knew nothing about it. Izuku took advantage of the villain deep in thought, and gave him a devastating blow across the head that sent him flying through several buildings, only to be stopped by Izuku kicking him into the ground. DM tries to stand up, but Izuku quickly lands on top of him, driving both feet into his back before flipping back away from him. DM slowly stood up, cringing and coughing up blood. How did you get this power? Izuku smirked. A lot of training and learning. DM clenched his teeth, staring him down. This power, I know it, but how? He threw his fist into a warp gate, punching Izuku in the chest, but he didn't budge. In fact, he could have easily blocked it but didn't. DM pulled back his fist, frowning in frustration. Everyone in 1A was staring in awe. Dude, when did Midoriya get so tough and manly? Asked Kirishima. I've never seen him glow red like that before. Is it part of the one for all they were talking about? Questioned Momo. It's not his quirk, it's something else. He obviously got a different dose of training that round face and I missed out on, answered Bakugo. Whatever it is, he's beating the crap out of that horrible monster guy, spoke Mineta. DM stared at Izuku, then down to his fist, but quickly does a double take seeing the blood on his fist. He forgot that he cut Izuku's chest and obviously we hit the wound when he threw that punch. DM smirked. If you won't tell me your secrets, then I'll search your memory for the answers I need. DM held up his fist and licks the blood off his knuckles. Izuku eyes him off questioningly. What's he up to? Wait, is that my blood? DM closed his eyes as his mind became flooded with new memories. He saw Izuku's training. But most importantly, he saw who taught him. He slowly opened his eyes. Goku, I know that name. But where? He thought deeply into his mind, thinking, repeating the name over and over till eventually the android part of his being clicked. He'd be so dependent on the Nomu part of his being that he ignored the cell android part. Until now. He became overwhelmed with a large flood of memories that was in his cell android DNA. He remembered everything from a time before Quirks. Not only that, but powers that go outside of the planet and beyond space. He looked down at his palm and created a ball of energy. Izuku stared in fear. How did you do that? DM smirked. I've always known. Ever since I was created I've known. You just happened to jog my memory and give a little reminder. So thanks. DM smirked and threw the ball at Izuku. He managed to dodge it, but only to continue dodging and weaving his way around the streets as DM fired endless Kai blasts, laughing insanely. He then opened a warp gate and started firing into it. Now not only did Izuku have to dodge the blasts in front of him but behind him as well. Izuku was struggling to keep up, barely dodging the blast. Damn it, Kaioken times 2. Izuku moves faster and began firing his own Kai blast to counter DM's. He manages to find the warp gate. DM created and activated his black whip quirk and aimed it at the warp. The blackness of the whip shot through the warp, grabbing onto DM's arm. Huh? Izuku pulled with all his strength, pulling DM through the warp, and powered up his legs and performed a spinning kick into DM's chest that proceeded to spin him around and around, letting him go crashing through another block of buildings. Izuku powered up more. I need to end this quick. Kaioken times 3. Otherworld. No, what are you doing? Your body won't be able to take it much longer, said Goku with obvious worry in his voice as he stared into the crystal ball watching Izuku's battle. What's the problem, Dad? You did the exact same thing with your first fight with Vegeta, said Gohan. Goku quickly replied, the difference is Izuku is using Kaioken combined with the power of One for All at 100%. And why's that bad for Uncle Izuku? Asked Pan, standing beside Gohan. Then Nana stepped in, interrupting. One for All is basically like using Kaioken times 100. The only reason Midoriya can handle it now was because of his training on King Kai's planet. So when he uses the real Kaioken technique, with the combined power of One for All, it's the equivalent of Kaioken times 200. Now he's using the equivalent of a 300 times Kaioken. It's triple the amount his body can handle. So although he's extremely powerful, he'll just break himself even worse and my fatal than the time he fought that muscular guy, added Piccolo. Goten stared at the crystal ball. Is there anything we can do? Maybe we should warn him? No. If we do that it'll make him overthink and panic. Although it seems simple and helpful. It might be just enough time for this death might guide to get the drop on him. We can only watch for now, said Goku regretfully. Yua Mach City. DM rubbed his head as he stood up, then looked up to see Izuku charging at him with amazing speed and a powerful fist. If he hits me it could be fatal, very fatal. He grins and exposes himself for the attack, waiting for him to get closer. As Izuku got within meters of making his blow, DM activated his trap and pulled All Might through a warp gate, using him as a shield. Izuku's fist collided with All Might's chest before he realized what he had done. All Might went flying, yelling in horrific pain as he crashed into a nearby alley. Izuku stared in pure horror at what he had just done. He ran over to his fallen master kneeling by his side. All Might, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to hit you. Damn it, damn I too. Izuku yelled and cried in a panic, looking at his broken teacher. All Might coughed and groaned, looking up at his student. It's okay, Izuku, I fell for that cheap trick too. It's not your fault. But, you're in terrible health because of me. I hurt you bad. DM appeared behind Izuku and picked him up by his head. Now I'll take that quirk now, he said darkly, activating his stealing quirk. Izuku, no, yelled All Might, only to cough up more blood. Izuku yelled in pain as he felt the power of his quirk forcefully leave his body, making him go limp from exhaustion. DM grinned, and drop-kicked Izuku back into the street. He walked over to the boy and pressed his foot down on his ribs. Uraraka was struggling to see what was happening due to the tears that filled her eyes. Deku, no. Bakugo groaned, clenching his fist. Damn it! Then he realized that he clenched his fists. He flexed it a few times, then flexed his other hand. Has it been an hour already? Doesn't matter, I can fight now. DM added weight to his foot, starting to hear Izuku's ribs crack. Where's that spark you had before? Did it disappear when I took your quirk? Izuku gasped in pain, tears streaming from his eyes. Damn you, I won't let you win. DM laughed. Ha ha ha. You're pretty cock for some on death's door. This will end quickly for you now. DM created a purple ball of energy and aimed it at Izuku's head. He smirked, ready to fire. Galactic gun. DM turned to see a purple beam flying at him, and before he could react, it cleanly removed his head. The ball of energy disappeared, and the headless body collapsed over. Izuku turned his head weakly at the direction the beam came from to see it was Bakugo who fired it. Bakugo and Uraraka flew over to Izuku as fast as they could, with Aida running after them. Deku, are you okay? Asked a very worried Uraraka that kneeled beside Izuku. I've been better, but that's not important. Uraraka, use your quirk and try to get All Might to recovery, girl. Ida, I need a favor. The school rep kneeled down. What is it, Midoriya? Run to my room. On my desk you'll see a plain-looking backpack. Inside you'll see a small sack. Get it and bring it to All Might and feed him one bean? Bakugo looked at him. So you brought some senzu beans back with you, huh? Izuku nodded. Yeah. Thought they might come in handy. Quick, get going. They all ran off, leaving Bakugo to help Izuku once Todoroki and Kirishima caught up. The girls and some guys ran to All Might's aid while the rest went to alert the staff of the attack. Izuku got his feet weakly, looking down, ashamed. Not only did he almost kill All Might, he lost one for all. He hung his head low as Kirishima and Todoroki helped him walk. The lifeless body of DM began to twitch and slowly rised up to its feet. With a sudden roar of pain, he grew back a new head and stared down at the students, panting. You are all dead. Izuku and the others slowly turned to see the villain very much alive. I'm gonna make you all suffer. He activated his warp quirk and dragged through Uraraka, holding her by the back of the neck, starting with her. Izuku felt his heart sank seeing her in death's grip. No, let her go. This is between you and me, he yelled. Uraraka pointed her palm at DM's head, but he quickly removed her arm with a swipe of his hand. Kirishima froze in fear by what he just saw. Did he just use Overhaul's quirk? Izuku saw it too, but was distracted by the fact blood was dripping out from Uraraka's shoulder from where her arm used to be. Uraraka screamed in horrific pain, crying, but screamed louder when he dissembled her other arm. Mina watched with her hands clamped over her mouth, fearing for her friend. Momo looked away, crying, not able to bear the horrific. Suyu stared down at the ground, guilt-ridden, since she can't think of a way to safely save her friend. Death Might, stop it, please. You don't need to do this. Please, begged Izuku. DM looked at the boy with a cold look that was unhuman. I do need to do this. I want to make you suffer, destroy that pure golden heart of yours. What better way to do that than to make you watch your girlfriend slowly die with you too weak to save her? Izuku clenched his fists as the tears kept coming. Please. Spare her. Uraraka gasped for air, looking at Izuku. Deku, I love you. Izuku looked up at her. She said this. DM rolled his eyes. And enough of this. He once again activated Overhaul's quick and removed her throat and made her bleed out. No, Izuku yelled, while everyone else stared in horror as Uraraka's body went lifeless in the most brutal way they could witness. Kirishima looked away as well as Bakugo. Todoroki looked down, then to Izuku, but the look he saw on Izuku's face made him step back in fear. The skies around them began to darken, and lighting began to flash. You monster, you took her away. She was going to be a hero. Izuku's body began to shake uncontrollably. She was going to save lives. Bakugo watched Izuku, never ever seeing so much rage and anger in him. I won't let you get away with this. I'm going to make you pay for everything. DM stared in amazement at the boy while the others backed away, as the lightning in the sky grew more violent. Izuku's hair began to glow and stand upright, but fall down as the glow faded. Grr. His eyes began to turn from their usual green color to teal color, and his hair finally glow brighter, turning blonde. Grrr! He yelled as energy exploded from him, sending shockwaves out, making his closest classmates going flying back until they hit a building. DM planted his feet down and tossed away Uraraka's lifeless body and took up a fighting stance. What's happening? I made him quirkless. Izuku stared at him with a look of pure anger and hatred as his body glows with the energy of the golden aura that surrounds him. I'm gonna kill you. Ochako Uraraka, you performed some heroic acts on Earth, and even joined the heroics course, therefore I shall send you above. King Yema stamped her paperwork approving her to proceed. Uraraka blinked in confusion and walked through the door. She remembered being in Death Mite's grip, and in a terrible amount of pain. She remembered seeing Deku crying, begging for her life. Then suddenly, she appeared in front of the big red guy. She walked through the door, seeing people floating legless like ghosts and halos above their heads. Wait, they're dead people. She looked down to see her legs not there, and in a panic she looked up to see a halo above her. I'm dead. Ah! Yes, you're dead as me. Now can you stop screaming? She turned around to see Aizawa standing there as tired as ever. Before she could speak, she heard someone call out to her, Uraraka. Hey Uraraka, you here? She looked around searching for the familiar voice that called out to her to see Goku walking around searching blindly. Goku, I'm here. He spotted her and quickly ran over to her. Quick, we need to go. Aizawa blinked and looked at his dead student. So who's this guy? Oh, this is Goku, Midoriya's father. He shrugged and looking at them just as Goku grabbed them both, activating instant transmission. Otherworld. Goku appeared with Aizawa and Uraraka in front of the crystal ball that was showing Izuku. Uraraka stared into the ball, seeing Izuku transform with uncontrollable rage. What's happening to him? He's going through a Super Saiyan transformation, declared Vegeta. But Whis walked in beside Goku with Beerus. I'm afraid it's a little more complicated than just a simple Super Saiyan transformation. Gohan turned to him. What do you mean by that? Well, for starters, look at Izuku. Do you notice anything different? Everyone looked at him besides him, glowing and having blonde hair? Said Aizawa. Goku stared at the ball wide-eyed. Wait, did he skip normal Super Saiyan? Whis nodded. That is correct. Yes. Vegeta clenched his fists. You gotta be joking. You're telling me that kid became an Ascended Saiyan after Kakarot? Gohan and I went for intense training to somehow unlock it? Whis looked at him. It was a combination of things that helped him achieve this. For starters, that he has a pure heart, and has always sought to help people through his dream of being a hero. Then he got a quirk that allowed him to achieve that dream. Imagine how crushed he would have felt, and how broken his heart would be, after not only losing the power of his quirk, but watching the woman he loved slowly tortured and killed in front of him. He said the last part, looking at Uraraka. The combination of these events has caused him to dig deep down into his inner power, and release the power of a Super Saiyan 2. But the question is, will he be cold, calculating and brutal with his opponent like most Saiyan during their first transformations into this power, added Beerus. Uraraka looked between all of them, with her eyes eventually resting on the golden warrior that is Izuku, Earth, Uamak City. Bakugo rubbed his head looking at Izuku. What happened to him? Why's he look so different? Kirishima pulled himself out of the wall. No idea, but I wouldn't want to be the one to piss him off. Izuku looked at Death Mite with raw rage and hate as blue lightning flickers off his body. So you got some new powers. So what? You're delaying the inevitable? He suddenly felt a surge of pain in his stomach, making him cough and groan, falling to his knees. He looked down to see Izuku's fist driving deep into his stomach. You talk too much. DM looked up to see Izuku staring down at him before a fist drove into his face. The ground. DM tried to pick himself up out of the ground, only to have Izuku Ki blast him into the ground without remorse. DM managed to create a warp gate underneath himself to escape from Izuku's assault. He arrives on top of a building, panting and crawling out of the warp. How, did he become so powerful? I barely have time to activate my quirks against him. He stiffened right up when he felt a shiver down his spine as he heard a pair of boots land behind him. He quickly turned around to Izuku, staring him down, his face unchanged since his transformation. DM raised his hand in fear. Stay back. Green lighting began to flick off his arms. One for all, 100%. He quickly focused the power into a ball of green energy and fired it at Izuku. A large explosion echoed across the school and nearby mountains and city. DM panted and chuckled, seeing the buildings behind Izuku, and the very spot he stood was non-existent. The chuckle stopped once the dust had settled, showing Izuku floating where he was standing. You're a monster, DM shouted in fear. That's hypocritical coming from someone as black-hearted as you, Izuku replied before stomping down into DM's chest, sending him flying into the street where the battle started in front of All Might and the rest of 1A. 1A dorms. Aida rushed into Midoriya's room and quickly began searching for the pack. He quickly found it, dumping its contents onto Izuku's bed. A orange ball rolled off the bed and into the corner of the room out of sight. He saw a small sack fall out and looked inside it, seeing the beans Midoriya described. He then quickly activated his quirk, racing back to All Might, Mach City. DM sat up groaning and seeing Izuku slowly walk towards him. He looked around trying to think of a way to stop him. He then noticed the students protecting All Might. Particularly the pink one. You'll do. He activated his warp quirk, pushing his arm through to grab her. Suyu looked up to see the arm reach for her. Mina, look out. Mina turned to come face to face with an open palm coming towards her. Special beam cannon! A yellow and purple-like beam shot through and took shot off the hand before it grabbed Mina. DM roared in pain, hang on to his missing limb. He looked up to see Class 1 Billion, and the staff of UA appear with 1A and Kendo landing beside Mina. Kendo. Was that you? Asked Momo. She smirked, nodding. Yup, glad to know it works. Took me ages to get that trick right. DM groaned as new hand grew and he slowly started to become surrounded. It's over. You can't win, said Izuku walking towards him. I'm not dead yet, boy. It's not over till one of us is dead. He roared, and began to cover the surface around him with a black-like liquid. Then objects began to form from it. What's he doing? What is that? Asked Kurawaro. I don't know, but I got a bad feeling about it, said Tokage. The watched as the black substance began to shape into people. They began to form into multiple villains that they've met before. Dabi, Toga, Shigaraki, and the Nomus they commanded. But they also began to double, making more and more clones of each other. But then the clones around DM began to take a different appearance. One grew up in front of him in the form on a slick creature with a tail that had white and purple skin. Another turned into a large bald guy in armor similar to what Raditz wore. But it was the other clones that made Izuku concerned. One turned into Vegeta, but he also wore armor and some kind of eye protection. Same as the Raditz clone that grew beside him. Then a Namekian grew, looking exactly like Piccolo but had the symbol of demon printed on his chest. Then in front of the villains everyone knew grew tiny little green men no bigger than Mineta, but looked like savage little creatures. They all may be clones weaker than their originals, but there's more than enough to defeat all of you. Otherworld. Hey, made clones of all the bad guys we fought. Yelled Krillin. How's that possible? Asked Trunks. Uraraka stared at the ball watching the clone army grow and grow, then turned to Gohan as he spoke. He noticed that the strongest villain there is Frieza. No clones of Buu or androids. Piccolo continued. This Death Might guy is clearly based on the original Cell we fought. Then somehow it got created with those Nomu things. So basically, he's just imperfect Cell with quirks. So because he has all our DNA and the guys we fought, he can make clones of us? Asked Tien. Yeah, but he's not powerful. He knows he can't be Izuku in a one-on-one fight, and it doesn't help that the whole school showed up to take him on. This cloning thing he's doing is an act of desperation, said Aizawa watching. Wait, how come he hasn't made clones of any of us? Gohan asked, and Whis answered, because they would be copies of you. He doesn't seem to have control over the clones unless they're evil-minded like him. If he creates any of you, then they'd just turn against him, thus defeating the whole purpose of cloning you. He can make all the clones he wants. They boy is a proud Saiyan. You all can see he won't stop fighting until he claims victory or meets his death, said Vegeta. DM chuckled with new army surrounding him. He was confident that he couldn't be stopped now with the mixture of villian clones he's created. But his moments of pride were shattered the moment he heard Deku's voice echo from down the street. Me. Ha! A beam of blue light exploded from Deku, destroying the clones charging straight at DM. In a moment of panic he surrounded himself with a mixture of Frieza and Saiyan clones to use as a shield, which worked perfectly to protect himself from harm. Once the intense light faded, DM saw half his clones destroyed. He grumbled and created more, tripling the amount he originally had. A Frieza clone walked up to him. So you're the one who brought us here. What do you want from us? DM looked at the alien. Destroy everything, no matter what it takes. The Frieza clone chuckled. It'll be my pleasure. Frieza turned towards the UA staff and began shooting purple's beams at them with his finger. He managed to take out Hounddog before anyone could get behind cover in time. Aida speed up next to All Might just in time, and with the help of Suyu the managed Yo feed him the mysterious bean. Within seconds he exploded into his muscle form with newfound energy. I feel incredible. Cough, cough, he puffed, as he had his coughing fit spit out blood. Damn it. Oh well, at least I'm not dying now. Aida looked across at the massive clone army and saw a person glowing golden. Who's that person? Are they a hero or villain? That's Midoriya. He changed like that the moment he saw Uraraka killed, said Suyu. Aida gasped, looking at her. No, that can't be. Uraraka is dead? But I thought Bakugo killed that thing. All Might stood beside him. He regenerated his head and took Uraraka slowly and painfully. That caused young Midoriya to change into whatever he is now. Izuku stared at the clone army deep in thought. His original plan was to destroy Death Might with a Kamehameha wave and just beat the crap of the clones till they no longer exist. But DM used the clones as a giant shield to take the blast of the attack, so he'd have to come up with a new plan. Mirio jumped up out of the ground beside him. "Hey there, Deku. Looks like you got yourself into quite the pickle." Izuku turned to face with a slight look of surprise Mirio. "You got your quirk back?" He nods in response. "Yup. Thanks to a certain little white-haired girl who's hiding with All Might now. He's safe, by the way. I saw Aida give him something, and he was as good as new." Izuku smiled in relief. "That's good to hear." Mirio crosses his arms. "So with your knowledge of hero and villain analysis, how did we beat these guys?" Izuku thought long and hard for a moment. "Who's here?" "The staff, 1A 1 billion, Nagia, Tamaki and myself." Izuku continued his thoughts as a Vegeta clone threw a Blutz waves burst, and turned the evil Saiyan clones into giant apes. Kaminari gawked at the creatures. "Oh, you gotta be kidding me, how can we go up against that? The bigger they are, the harder they fall," said Tokoyami as Todoroki charged out, and began freezing the beast's legs, while Bakugo used his ki blasts and explosions to knock them over. The apes would hit the ground with a mighty thud, then explode into liquid, but would be quickly replaced with two more. Izuku turned to Mirio. "We gotta keep these guys contained here, at least long enough for me to try something. I don't know if it'll work, but it's worth a shot." Mirio nodded. "Leave it with me. Good luck." He disappeared into the ground, leaving Izuku to float up to the top of a building. He sighed, taking a deep breath and closing his eyes, then raising his arms and hands upward towards the sky. Everyone received the word from Mirio and automatically spreaded our fighting against the clones, leaving behind All Might with Eri under the protection of Ibara. Momo used her quirk to create a minigun, and began firing at the Saibaman that charged at her with short control bursts in order to conserve ammo. Mineta ran around madly like a headless chicken, throwing his balls in all directions, trapping clones to the ground in small areas, leaving Kaminari to walk along and shock the trapped victims. Tesutesu had teamed up with Kirishima to take on some of the great apes, giving Todoroki a chance to fight the Dabi clones and Bakugo, to go after the Vegeta clones that didn't transform. Midnight was casually flirting with a Nappa clone, only to attack him and take him out. He'd normally be more of a handful, but he's still a male that can't resist the powers of her quirk. Tamaki was using his tentacles to grab the Toga clones and throw them at the Shigaraki ones. Then Nagire would fly above them and crush them with a blast from her quirk. Mina used her acid to skate around and blind any clone she came across with acid she'd throw into their eyes. Then Tsuyu would hop along and collect them victims by wrapping them in her tounge, and body slam them into a pile, leaving Aida to jump using his powerful engine kicks to turn them into pudding with a fatal blow. Mirio would fly out of the ground using both his fists to uppercut clones in the jaw before disappearing into the ground to avoid Fatal being seen and to make another attack. Tokoyami would fly with the assistance of Dark Shadow fighting against Tambourine, but Kurowairo would hide within Dark Shadow and add a few extra attacks into Tokoyama's assault against the flying demon. Tokage was going one-on-one with the Demon King Piccolo, and was laughing maniacally, dodging his attacks and sending him into frustration. She would use her own body parts to attack him as well as confuse him by baiting him. Shishida roared as he stomped and brutally attacked a unsuspecting Raditz clone that was in the process of trying to transform into a great ape, but Shishida took advantage of his unprotected carelessness. Frieza smirked, staring at the orange-haired girl that stood in front of him. "You're either have a death wish or you're a little overconfident if you think you can defeat me." Kendo took up a fighting stance that she learnt from Piccolo. "You're one to talk. You're acting like you're a big deal for a clone." "True, I am only a clone, but even so I still demand respect. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Lord Frieza." Kendo rolled her eyes. "Well, I'm Itsuka Kendo, if you really needed to know that." Frieza chuckled. "Pleasure to meet you, Itsuka. Now die." Kendo quickly dodged Frieza's pistol-like attack, and charged forward, driving a kick into his stomach, thus causing them to go toe-to-toe, exchanging blows to one another. Otherworld. "Wow, this is insane. There's so many fights going on, I don't know which to watch," said Krillin. "Yeah, those Hero Corps students really know how to work together and battle against the odds," commented Yamcha. Aizawa looked at the crystal orb and allowed a small smile to appear on his face. "They've all come a long way from the day they first stepped into my classroom. They've continually fought to improve and get better with each challenge they face. There's two students that inspire them to go beyond their limits and become plus ultra." He turned to look at Uraraka. "I believe you know the two I refer to?" She nodded yes. "One is Bakugo. And the other is Izuku Midoriya, I'm guessing, right?" Spoke Beerus, eyeing off the one a teacher. "That is correct. I see everyone else fighting and giving it their all now, but where is Uncle Izuku?" asked Pan, looking at her father and grandfather. Crystal Orb searches around and found the Super Saiyan hero in training on top of a building with his hands raised. Gohan raised a brow. "Dad, is he doing what I think he's doing?" Goku simply nodded. I'm pretty sure he is. UA Mach City. DM kept creating clones while he defended himself and fought against Vlad King, Snipe and Power Loader. Normally he could take the three out with ease, but with his mind divide to create clones and fighting, he couldn't perform as well as he normally would. But still he managed to hold his own against the pro heroes. He eventually managed to grab Vlad with his tail and throw him at Snipe, taking him out, leaving Power Loader to fight alone. With a quick use of his warp quirk, he grabbed Power Loader and dragged him through the warp, slamming him into the ground behind him, knocking the breath out of him. DM began to search around the battlefield. Where is he? Why hasn't he come to face me yet? Where are you, Midoriya? He then began to notice the great apes shrink back into their regular Saiyan forms. He blinked in confusion, watching the beasts become no more. He looked down and could still see his shadow made by the light created from the Blutz waves. He quickly looked up to see the Blutz waves disappear and become no more. But then he saw another blue orb that's different from the Blutz waves and seems to be growing. What the hell is that? Koda was standing on the edge of the battlefield, listening to the nearby wildlife grow weak and flee. They're donating their energy to someone. But who? He also looked up to see the growing orb in the sky. Eep! He squealed. Kendo stood there panting tiredly, looking at an equally tired Frieza. They suddenly became distracted by the shrinking apes, and naturally they both looked up at the sky. What is that? Asked Kendo in confusion. Frieza, however, was looking at the orb with his mouth wide open in fear. No, not that attack. Everyone, run and get out of the way. Now! Yelled Izuku, as he held up the spirit bomb he had just created. Kendo went wide-eyed and ran away, picking up any wounded allies with her large hands. The entire of UA escaped the battlefield. Death might take this, and burn in hell, screamed Izuku, as he threw the giant blue sphere towards the villains. Bakugo ran out with the last of UA's forces. Deku, you crazy bastard, warn us next time. DM stared up at the ball fast approaching him, and held up his hands. Catch if you fools. The remains, the Villian clones, stood together and holding up their hands, and with their combined strength they caught the spirit bomb. Otherworld. What? No way, yelled Vegeta. They're gonna throw it back at him. Panicked Goten. Gohan looked at his father. Is there anything we can do? Goku stared at the crystal orb, shaking in frustration, not able to think of any answer. Whis turned to him. May I remind you, Goku, you still have that wish from the Super Dragon Balls. Goku blinked, thinking about it. I guess I don't have a choice and have to use it. Whis looked up at the orb as well. Well, you could use that wish. Or you can have a little more faith in your son, since I just noticed he's got some unexpected help. Everyone looked at Whis, then quickly back to the orb. UA Mach City. All Might stared as he watched his struggling student try and force the spirit bomb onto the villains, but couldn't fight the resistance that was against him. He looked down, wishing he could think of something. In doing so, he realized that the one responsibility he had to take care of during the battle was missing. Oh crap. Izuku cringed, trying to hold back the spirit bomb being thrown back towards him. Grr. Ah, damn it. I don't have enough energy to beat them. Damn Deku? Izuku blinked as he heard an innocent voice come from the building under him. He looked down to see Eri looking up at him. Eri, what are you doing here? Get out of her now, it's too dangerous. He yelled with tears in his eyes, seeing the young girl in terrible danger. She shook her head at him. No, Deku is my hero, and I want to help him by lending him my power like before. Izuku blinked in confusion, and watched as Eri held up her hand, aiming at him and the other pointing at DM. She took a deep breath and activated her quirk, letting her horn glow. DM grinned as he felt the spirit bomb begin to push back, but a sudden jolt in pain caused him to collapse to his knees. Gah, what's happening? Green lighting began to flicker around him, and then wildly flicker off his arms as he felt raw power leave his hand, and fire launched towards Izuku. The raw power hit Izuku square in the chest, and green lighting flickered off him for a moment. Izuku blinked and looked at Eri, who was smiling proudly. She reversed. Death might stealing my quirk. She gave me one for all back. DM panted and felt a quirk missing from his being. He tried to activate one in particular and stayed on his knees in fear. One for all has been taken from me. Izuku smiled. One for all. Full cowling, 100%. He activated his lost quirk and combined it with power of the Super Saiyan. He began to glow, a mixture of green and gold. His hair became a lime-like color with golden streaks running through it. His muscles bulked more, but he still remained in a somewhat slim figure. This battle is over and you villains will meet your end. Why, you ask? Because I am here, declared Izuku, and gave one last final powerful shove of the spirit bomb, crushing all the clones and making DM surge madly as his body begins to break down and fall apart. Nu, I curse you, Midoriya, Loud explosion roars in all directions, destroying anything and everything beneath it. The staff and students of UA continue to run, exiting out of the mock city before it gets destroyed. After the explosion and a quick inspection showed there was no survivors, the staff proceeded to do a head count, making sure all staff and students are accounted for. "It would seem we are too short," stated Nezu as he looked around. "That wouldn't happen to be us, would it?" spoke Izuku as he landed, holding Eri in his arms. Everyone turned to face and see him looking normal with his hero costume basically torn to shreds and covered in cuts and bruises. He gently put down Eri and smiled at her. "Thank you, Eri. You helped me be the hero I needed. To be." And with that he passed out exhausted, with everyone rushing over to him to aid. Aftermath. Izuku blinked away the blurriness of the room and stared at the ceiling as he woke up. He noticed right away that it was dark, which suggested to him that it was dark, therefore it must be sometime in the middle of the night. He groggily looked around the room to find his mother sitting beside him with fidgeting hands. She caught the movement in the corner of her eye, causing her head to shoot up in his direction. "Izuku? You're awake!" She leaped out of her sit and embraced her son. Izuku struggles to find the energy but managed to get an arm around her. Tears began to flow down his cheeks and he holds his mother tighter. I failed, Mom. I couldn't save her." Inko felt her heart shatter hearing the words he spoke. All Might and Nezu already told her the events that happened. The pain she felt now was the same as the day Izuku was told he was quirkless. She felt useless and wanted nothing more than to help her son, but didn't know how. They remained hugging and crying till eventually Izuku fell back to sleep. 3 days later, UA dorms. Izuku returned from the hospital with the memory of Uraraka's death haunting him. He entered the dormitory seeing no one around and slowly made his way towards his room, but stopped when he saw Uraraka's door. He stared at it and walked inside her room. He sighed looking at the empty room. Part of him hoped that the last few days were a dream and he'd walk in and find her here. He felt the tears begin to fight, wanting to escape his eyes, but then suddenly he felt a pair of arms wrapped around him. He looked towards where the weight leaned against him and saw a floating t-shirt and shorts pressed against him. He blinked and sniffled Toru. Although he couldn't see her, he felt like she nodded in confirmation. "We miss her too, all of us." The floating shirt took a step back and pulled out a phone from the pocket of the shorts. After a few seconds the phone turned towards him, and he saw a photo of him and Uraraka on the roof, with her leaning a head on his shoulder, and him blushing madly. He blinked and looked towards where he assumed her face would be. Before he spoke, Tora answered the question he was about to ask. "I was on the roof spying on you two that night. All the girls have it. It's only fair you do too, I think." The phone turned around, and after another few seconds he felt his phone vibrate, notifying him that he received the photo. "We're all here for you, Midoriya. I hope you know that and remember it." The floating shirt and shorts left the room, leaving him alone to view the photo she captured. After what seemed like hours, he finally left Uraraka's room and went to his own. He was walking with his mind in a blur. He dragged his feet across the room until his foot tapped something and heard it roll across the floor. He blinked and looked down to see the orange ball with 6 red stars on it that Korin gave him. He looked at it as he picked it up, and after a moment the cogs in his head began to turn as his eyes widened in realization. Otherworld. Goku sat cross-legged watching the small crystal orb in front of him alone and smiled as he watched his son find a Dragon Ball. Took him long enough. He turned to see Uraraka staring at the horizon as she sat under a tree. He activated instant transmission to sit beside her. "A lot on your mind, huh?" She looked up at him for a moment before looking back towards the horizon. "It's just... I hate the pain I've caused Deku." Goku tilted his head in confusion. "What you mean?" Her eyes began to water. If I didn't let my feelings get the better of me and made him share his feelings with me, then he wouldn't be hurting so bad with me gone." Goku blinked and looked ahead. "You've known my son longer than I have. And yet, sound like you don't know him at all." She looked back at him confused. "Wait, what?" He smiled. "Even if you two never confessed to each other, even if you did keep it bottled up and remained friends, the end result would still be the same. He'd still be shattered and devastated to lose you." She wiped her tears. "You're right. I just wish I could tell him it's not his fault. I'm here. I would say you could tell him in person, but I think you two would be too happy to have that conversation," said Goku casually, causing Uraraka to do a double take and look at him. "Huh." Goku smirked. "On Earth, we have these things called Dragon Balls. UA dorms." Izuku put on his orange GI since his hero costume was currently in the process of being repaired, and that's gonna take a while. He strapped on his backpack and picked up the Dragon Radar and flicked it on, checking it. "Okay. There's 4 already together. 2 spread out somewhere else and the other I already got. If there's 4 together, does that mean someone else is after them?" If there is, I need to beat them to the other two. He walked to leave the room, and as he opened the door he came face to face with his classmates. Going somewhere, Deku? Asked Bakugo in his usual tone. Izuku looked down. Yeah, I am. Are you gonna tell us where you're going and why? Asked Tsuyu. I don't know where I'm going, not yet anyway. As for the why, you'd all think I'm crazy if I told you. Everyone remained silent until Kendo, who Izuku never noticed was standing beside Bakugo the whole time, stepped forward. Try us, Midoriya. He sighed and pulled out the 6-star ball. I'm going out to find these. Everyone stared at in awe as Mina spoke. Is pretty to look at, no doubt. But why? Izuku looked up at them and proceeded to explain. They're called Dragon Balls. If I can find all 7, I can get a wish from the dragon, and ask it to bring back Uraraka. They all looked at each other, no one wanting to be the one to talk, but Todoroki took the lead. Midoriya, I can't imagine what you're going through right now. But this plan of yours is unrealistic. It's based on a myth. Izuku turned away. It's not a myth. My father told me the story. And I have the dragon radar, so it won't take me long to find them. Momo blinked as he mentioned the dragon radar. Wait, you mean that thing I lent you? It's made to find those balls? Izuku nodded. Don't ask me how I know. It's too complicated to explain. Kirishima decided to speak up. Listen, dude, if you're committed to finding these things, at least let us help you. We got your back, bro. Everyone nodded in agreement, which Izuku couldn't help but smile at. I appreciate the offer, guys, but the truth is. He looked up at them, smirking as he placed 2 fingers on his forehead. You can't keep up with me. He then disappeared, activating instant transmission. Somewhere on a beach. Mwahahaha. Excellent, we only have 3 more to get, said the tiny blue cyborg with a funny look hat. What are you gonna wish for, master? Asked a purple cyborg dog with a pair of swords on his back. Well, isn't it obvious, Shu? You're gonna ask to be supreme ruler of the world? No, you fool, that will be my second wish. My first wish will be to have my body back in all its glory, the little blue cyborg declared. But Emperor Pilaf, your cyborg body has allowed you to live all these years, and not to mention it gives us both a physical advantage. Oh, so what? I hate being this clunk of metal. I want to be flesh and bone again when I rule the world. Now find the rest of the Dragon Balls already, yelled Pilaf. Shu simply sighed. Yes, master. It's just not the same looking for Dragon Balls without my. Pilaf became teary-eyed at the memory of his old follower. Well, she's not here anymore. She went off with that blue-haired wonder boy. My dream of world domination clearly wasn't enough to sway her heart over, so it's just us now. She nodded, still missing his old friend, till Pilaf ran over and punched him across the back of the head. Stop sitting there mooping. Find those last Dragon Balls. The yelling was interrupted with the sudden appearance of a stranger in an orange gi. The Pilaf and Shu looked at each other, then towards the stranger, in fear, recognizing that uniform. No, it can't be, he should have been dead decades ago, mumbled Pilaf in fear. Stranger turned to face them and they saw it was just a plain-looking kid with green hair. They both sighed in relief. Oh boy, you gave us a bit of a scare, kid, said Shu. Yeah, and that outfit of yours, you reminded us of someone. Izuku blinked and rubbed the back of his neck. Huh, okay, who do I remind you of? Pilaf smiles. Oh, no one you'd know, just this guy called Goku. Izuku raised a brow. Huh, funny you mentioned that. He's my dad. Both Pilaf and Shu turned pale hearing that, until Pilaf yelled in frustration. Nu, you won't take my wishes away from me. He activated his cyborg weapons and opened fire on Izuku, launched rockets at him with the help of Shu. The rockets were a direct hit and they both sighed in relief. The dust finally settled and Izuku was revealed unharmed in any way, and was now frowning at the fact he was just attacked. I don't know who you are or what problems you got with my dad, and I don't care about your wish. I need those balls more than you do. He slowly stepped towards them, making them shake so bad you can hear the metal clutter. Now, to avoid things getting ugly for the pair of you, I suggest you hand over the balls you have. Pilaf quickly handed them over. Izuku put them in his pack and gave the two a wave. Thank you. He then disappeared, leaving the two alone. We're never gonna catch a break, whined Pilaf. Izuku dragged his feet through the deep snow, shivering as he followed the dragon radar up the mountain. He caught in the blizzard the moment he arrived here. The only thing keeping him some kind of warmth is his all-might hoodie that he wore over the top of his GI. A smart, rational, patient person would wait for the storm to pass. But with his current mindset, Izuku was not that person. He needed to find the next ball. Dragon radar continued to beep as he came across an ice cave. He looked at the radar and saw that the ball was inside. He quickly entered, relieved to get out of the howling ice-filled winds. Walking carefully, it quickly became dark. Trying the light on his phone proved to be useless as it didn't have enough light. He paused for a moment, thinking, maybe if I turn into the thing I did before, it'll light up. What did Dad call it? Oh yeah, Super Saiyan. I'll just that. He thought long and hard about his original transformation and how he managed to make it happen. Ever since the fight he wasn't able or hasn't tried to do it again until now. It was like a feeling in my back. He concentrated hard trying to find the power again. Come on ... The light explodes around him as he becomes surrounded by a golden aura and his hair once again becoming blonde. He smiled proudly at his achievement and was happy to notice that his idea worked and he could see in the cave now. He reached a dead end and could see the 2-star Dragon Ball frozen in the ice. He crossed his arms. If I was Todoroki I'd just melt it, no problem. I'll just have to use Kirishima and Kakan's approach. Clenched his fist, pulling it back, and began punching his way through the ice, then eventually dug it out of the ice. Great. That makes 6. All I need now is the 4-star ball. He checked the radar's location for the 4-star ball and it appeared to be in a suburban area in the city he was born in. Didn't realize one was that close the whole time. He placed 2 fingers on his head and activated instant transmission. Musutafu, suburbs. Izuku arrived in an alleyway where no one saw him arrive. He removed his hoodie and jammed it into his backpack as he walked onto the street and followed the radar to the final ball. He remained in his Super Saiyan form, deciding it'd be a good disguise, and he wanted to see how long he can hold the form for before returning to his normal plain look. He followed the radar to an old apartment complex. Eventually he found himself on the 5th floor walking towards a door. The radar signaled the ball was inside. He went to knock but noticed the door was slightly open. Izuku entered slowly, looking inside the dark apartment. Hello, anyone home? He continued forward, still looking around. One thing he noticed was a few blood-stained knives randomly placed around the place. Ignoring it, he proceeded to find the ball. Looking at the radar, he followed it into the bedroom and saw the 4-star ball sitting on the bedside table. He smiled as he picked it up but stiffened when he heard a familiar voice. You think you can just waltz in here and steal a girl's stuff? He had his back to the person who spoke, but he knew who it was. Toga. The blonde girl raised a brow, twirling her knife in her hand as she eyed the stranger. Oh, you know me? It's only fair that I should know you, right? Izuku held on to the ball as he turned to face her, half ready to fight as he needed to. Toga stared at the boy in front of her. He looked familiar. Really familiar. To the point her heart raced seeing the boy, making her giddy. There's only one person capable of making her feel this way. Izuku? Izuku nodded. Yeah, she smiled excitedly. You're here in my home, and I'm really digging the blonde look too. Izuku blinked. You're home? She nodded and walked towards him. Yup. If I knew you were coming to break in here I would have cleaned up and prepared for you. But I'll just have to improvise. She jumped forward, tackling him into the bed, pinning him down and straddling him. She pinned his hands above his head and held the ball in her free hand. Now why would you want this? She asked. Izuku knew he could easily escape from her, no problem, but he needed to know how much she knew about the Dragon Balls. I'm collecting them. It's a hobby. She grinned evilly. I see, just collecting them. You wouldn't happen to be trying to get a wish from the dragon, are you? Izuku gulped, looking up at her. The League of Villains know about the wish? She shook her head. Nope. Just me. The doctor guy had notes on it but ignored them, and so did Shigaraki. He said it was nothing more than a stupid legend. I thought he was right until I found this one not too long ago. She smirked and placed it back on the table. I was gonna find them all and get my wish, but now I don't need it. Izuku looked at her confused. What? Why? She looked down at him as she felt his chest through his. You're my wish. And now I have you. She grinned as she gripped her blade. You're so cute it's unbearable. I won't be able to control myself once I make you bleed. She sliced through his only cutting it open, exposing his chest. He quickly grabbed her hands, flipped her over, pinning her under him. She squealed in excitement, wrapping her legs around his waist. I never expected you to be so rough. God, I just love it. She instinctively began to grind against him. Toga, stop. I really need that ball. And I don't have time for this. She pouted at him. Oh, you're no fun. And what makes you think I won't go tell Shigaraki about you collecting these balls? Izuku sighed. Fine. Let's make a deal. The ball and for you to keep quiet about them. What do you want for that? She looked at him. You know exactly what I want. Izuku looked away from her. There isn't anything else I can offer you? She shook her head. Nope. He closed his eyes, knowing that he'll most likely regret this. You got 10 minutes. He told her, loosening his grip. Her hands slipped away and hurt her tear open his gi more, exposing his torso. I'd argue for longer time, but I'll happily accept. She flipped him again so he's on the bottom and quickly cut him across the chest. He groaned in pain, which made her shiver in delight and made her eyes sparkle once he began to bleed. I knew you'd look so much hotter when you bleed. She tossed away her knife and automatically began licking the wound and sucking his blood with raw hunger. She moaned, loving how wonderful he tasted it. She was so driven by lust she lost control of her quirk and began to change. Izuku stared as she turned into his Super Saiyan form. But she wasn't an exact copy of him like she normally is with her transformations. In fact, all she did was turn to a female Super Saiyan version of him. She sat up and checked herself out in the mirror. Damn Izuzu, you're a hottie. She played with her new golden hair and smirked down at him. So quick question. If we did it right now, would that be classed as masturbation since you're technically fucking yourself? Izuku blinked. I don't know and I don't want to find out. And what gives? How come you're me as a girl? She giggled. Okay, I've been working on gender manipulation with my quirk. This is the first time I got it to work though. Izuku gulped. Okay, that's enough for me. She groaned. Oh come on, it'll be so good. He sat up, gently pushing her off. Sorry, but your 10 minutes is up. He grabbed the ball in his pack, quickly activating instant transmission. Toga screamed in frustration as he left. She checked herself out again in the mirror, admiring the golden female Izuku look. I'll just have to handle this myself, I guess, she told herself as she began to strip. UA dorms. Izuku appeared back in his room and collapsed on his bed, panting as his return to his regular form. I knew finding these things was going to require some effort, but I wasn't expecting that. He ate a senzu bean to heal the cut Toga made and put on a casual dark blue t-shirt to replace the top of his cut-up gi. He quickly walked downstairs and saw everyone there. They all saw him, and before anyone could speak a word he showed them a full bag of Dragon Balls. He simply walked outside, accidentally pumping into All Might. He was coming over to check up on him. Young Midoriya, you seem in a hurry. Izuku kept walking towards an open section outside the dorms. Sorry, All Might. I just got something to do. All Might looked in confusion as the rest of the Izuku's classmates exited the dorms to see what he will do. Izuku tipped out the 7 balls and looked at them for a few moments before taking a deep breath. Dragon, rise and grant my wish. The surrounding sky turned black as lighting explodes through the sky. A bright light shoots from the 7 balls and the light slowly forms into the shape of a dragon. The light fades into green scales and a loud roar echoes in the mountains and city. Class 1 stared in awe and fear, shocked to see that the creature is in fact very real. Bakugo turns to look at the reader. They didn't believe a dragon is real but completely ignored the fact that they're a pro hero that transforms into a dragon. All Might turned to look at Bakugo. Did you seriously do a 4th wall break? Bakugo shrugged, not really caring. All Might sighed and turned back to Midoriya. Shenron roared, looking down at the young heroes in training. What are your wishes? Speak so that I may grant them. Everyone gulped nervously as they looked down to Izuku, who stared up at the dragon with his usual determination. I wish for all the good innocent people death might killed to be brought back to life. Can you do it? Shenron looked down at the green-haired boy in front of him and considered his wish. It shall be done. His eyes glowed red, granting the wish. All Might and 1A looked at each other in disbelief at the dragon granting the wish. Some were skeptical to it until they saw what happened next. Uraraka and Aizawa suddenly appeared in front of the Dragon Balls and Shenron. Everyone gasped seeing them. Izuku stared at Uraraka with tear-filled eyes and she looked back at him with the same expression. Before either of them could say a word, all of 1A stampeded over the top of Izuku to greet their once-dead classmate and teacher. Mina and the rest of the girls were basically squeezing the life out of her, their hugs of joy. The boys attempted the same with Aizawa, but he just brushed them off and crawled into his sleeping bag. Turns out he didn't get enough sleep in Otherworld. Once the reunion settled down a bit, Uraraka made her way through the crowd and approached Izuku, who was currently face down in the dirt, twitching slightly. She kneeled down in front of him and used her quirk to lift him. She held both his hands to keep him anchored as they looked at one another. When she looked into his eyes, all she could see was guilt within them. The tears he held back the whole time finally broke free. I'm so sorry, Ochako. I couldn't save you from him. I'm sorry I let it happen. Her heart broke hearing his guilt-filled words of failure. She cupped his cheeks and made him look at her. Deku, I saw your fight with him. You did everything you could and you saved everyone from him. And you brought me back to you. You will always be my hero, Izuku Midoriya. She quickly leaned forward and kissed him, making him melt away from his guilt-ridden feelings into pure happiness. This is so fucking romantic, squealed Toru. I expect that kind of language from Bakugo. You're a proud UA student, don't stoop to his level, said Aida, chopping his arm in a robotic fashion. Uraraka and Izuku looked at their classmates, blushing with embarrassment, but only for a moment. She deactivated her quirk, letting him land gently and embrace each other. Aizawa approached the two Midoriya. I saw your fight with that thing. If it were a test I would have failed you for destroying the entire city, but since it was basically an end-of-the-world scenario I'll let it slide. Shenron growled in annoyance. I don't have all day. What is your second wish? Everyone ran away in fear, hiding behind Izuku and their teachers. Izuku looked up at Shenron. Wait. I get 2 wishes? Shenron nodded yes. Originally it was 1. But Dende gave me the power to grant 2. Unlike the Namekian Dragon Balls that grant 3, Izuku put a hand to his chin trying to think of another wish, until is interrupted by a certain purple hero in training. Yo Midoriya, you should totally wish for some hotties for all the guys. Kaminari joined him. I agree with Mineta. That would be a very good wish to make Midoriya my man. Before they could convince him to make the wish, Momo gave Jiro a baseball bat and she whacked them both across the head. Shut up you pervs. All Might then approached Izuku. If you don't mind, young Midoriya. I have a wish. Izuku looked at his old master and nodded, allowing him to make the wish. Hey dragon, I got a wish, speak so that I may grant it, replied Shenron. All Might took a deep breath and looked up at him. I wish everyone who had their quirks stolen from All for One, and Death Might had their quirks returned to them. Shenron looked at the old veteran hero. Very well. It shall be granted, he declared with his eyes glowing red, granting the wish. Your wishes have been granted. Farewell, until the next summoning. Shenron faded into light that returned to the 7 balls. Then 6 of the balls exploded in all directions across the globe, with the exception of one that simply falls down, landing at Izuku's feet. He picked it up, looking at it, as Uraraka peeked around to inspect it. As well, it's a rock? Izuku turned to face her. Yeah. For a year the balls become stone, so that Shenron can rest before being summoned again. At least that's how Gohan explained it to me. He put the stone into his pack, smiling at her. Class returned to the dorms with All Might and Aizawa heading off to Nazu to explain what happened. Izuku and Uraraka went to her room and laid in bed together, cuddling until she broke the silence. Hey Deku, next time you collect the Dragon Balls to save me, try to avoid making deals with Toga. Izuku turned red, looking at her. You know about that? She giggled. Your dad and I saw the whole thing. I was jealous at first, but in a way it was comical to watch. He sighed. I'm sorry, I kinda panicked in the moment. She laid her head on his chest. Don't worry about it, just don't get caught in that situation again. He relaxed, holding her close. I'll try. 2 years later. Alright sports fans, and welcome to another incredible UA Sports Festival, announced President Mike to the cheering. Today is a very special event. We will be having the winner of the 3rd year's Izuku Midoriya go up against an unknown guest in this once-in-a-lifetime exhibition match. Izuku stood in the waiting room, stretching and getting ready for his fight. Ready to go, hero? He turned to see his girlfriend smiling with her hair tied back in a ponytail. He smiled back at her, standing up, as ready as I'll ever be. She walked over and kissed him lightly. Just go easy on him. He chuckled as he gave her a peace sign, walking out to the arena. He walked onto the ring, smirking, seeing his opponent. It's been a while, Izuku. I've really been looking forward to this, said Goku, grinning. So have I. I got a few new tricks just for you, Izuku replied, turning Super Saiyan. Goku replied by turning Super Saiyan as well. Don't hold back, Izuku. I know you got a new transformation, Goku said, which made Izuku pout. Aw, I wanted that to be a surprise. Fine, but you don't hold back either. Dad. Goku nodded, turning Super Saiyan blue. Okay, Izuku, your turn. Meanwhile, up in the stands, Chi-Chi and Inka were sighing, watching the two. If those two don't behave, they'll destroy the whole place. They stress me out, honestly, Vegeta huffed. I want to see this new transformation the boy has got. All Might turned to Nana. So explain to me how you all got here. Nana smiled. Turns out that tournament where I first meet Midoriya and Goku won the Super Dragon Balls. He wished that everyone got a month pass to visit Earth. He timed it so we could be here for the sports festival. All Might turned to watch the two Saiyans. What a thoughtful guy, Izuku smirked as he began to power up with One for All, helping him do it faster. Gurgura! He exploded into a light of dark green and surrounded in a green aura. His hair was glowing a green. Goku smirked. Nice. I'm assuming you worked out how to make that quirk of yours become part of a Super Saiyan transformation. Got a name for it? I've been calling it Super Saiyan Green. Keep it simple. Izuku smirked, taking up a fighting stance. Everyone in the crowd was staring in awe and confusion at the two as they did their wild transformations. Goku and Izuku leaped forward at each other with their fists pulled back to start the battle with devastating blows. The scene of them charging at one another became framed in everyone's minds from that day on. And guys, this is the end. I hope you guys enjoyed well. Until next time. Peace.